As a performer, everyone's goal is to be able to perform like they are at home or by themselves in their most comfortable space. That's everyone's goal, because we know if we can do that, we can bring out our best. So what's the difference between performing on a stage or at an event versus practicing in your most comfortable space? Well, there's no pressure. You trust yourself because you're okay. It's okay to make mistakes, and you're there to explore. There's no judgment, right? There's no judgment there at all. And none of that is getting towards you. So you have a clear mind. And this is one of the key factors, is having a clear mind when there is pressure on you. And there's a lot of external factors and scenarios and stories, and there's a build up towards it all, right? And you can't let that get to you. What I have here is I've drawn up a graph from your least pressured to the most pressured type of event you could ever feel. So when you're feeling the least amount of pressure, you're in your most comfortable space. That is at home, that is your local practice spot. This is, for me, this is with my crew, okay? So your most comfortable space. I'm just gonna do a C here, okay? Now, what's the next one? Level 2. Level 2 is where you start to step out of your comfort zone, okay? A little bit more, you start to feel a bit more pressure. This would be something like a local jam. Okay, somewhere in your local area where there's an event that's happening. Number 3 would be something where it is interstate. Okay, so whether it's interstate with when you live in a bigger country, or if you live in Europe, you know, you're more familiar with people as well. So it could be countries that are closer to your country as well. So, you know, it's just interstate country is what we're going to call it. And level 4 is going to be something that is a bit more pressure in your interstate. So it's the best event in your city or in your country, okay? So, you know, let's just say it's an interstate championship, okay? Then on level 5, you're going to have international. So we're just going to do an I there. And then level 6 would be like a world championships of the best, okay? So we'll go WC. So what is the difference between 1 to 6? There's a few factors, okay? There's about 3 of them. The first one is unfamiliarity. So we're very familiar on level 1, but then as we go up to 6, this is something we've never frequently felt before. So it's very important to be able to get that familiarity on whichever level it is that we want to get to, okay? So the exposure is what's going to make a massive difference to how comfortable we start to feel. Another difference between 1 to 6 is skill level. Obviously, the skill level is going to change depending on which country you're in as well, but the skill level from your local jam to the international, you're filtering from not so much the best to the very best, right? There's a massive filter. So that is something you don't have so much control over when it comes to performing, because it's not within yourself, like other people's skill, but you do have control over your mind. And as an artist, we say this all the time, there is no best, because it depends on the day. So this doesn't really matter that much. You know, even if it's a running race and someone is faster than you, if you are at a primal state and you're ready to perform and you've kind of been more prepared than that person who's a bit more chill and nonchalant, and you've done your warm-ups, you have a better chance of beating the person who has more skill than you. You do have a better chance. So it's not something to worry about too much, because we want to worry about what's in with us. But this is definitely a factor, okay? This is definitely something that you're going to see as you go up on the different levels. So the last one that I want to talk about is, I'm just going to do it short, perceived pressure. The pressure that we perceive is going to be greater. Let me reiterate what I just said. Perceived pressure. The pressure exists because it exists in you, and it exists in other people who choose to see it as more pressure, and we let that get to us. The narrative of the build-up, the importance of it, so on, all these things that play on in our heads that we perceive more pressure. And even the organizers, the events, everyone wants the pressure to make it the pinnacle event, to make it an even better event. So you feel no pressure here. You might feel slightest pressure in level 2 and level 3, and as it starts to build up, there is more pressure as we get to these more higher pressure performances and events, right? So again, it is in your mind that you perceive this, but it only exists because we let it exist with us, and we don't have the self-control. A lot of the times, a lot of amateurs don't have the self-control to learn how to control this. And we're going to talk about this, okay? Just looking for my pen. So let me just talk about something, what most people's journeys look like, okay? This is your 1 year time frame, right? You've been dancing for 1 year, and then here's your 20-year time frame. Just as an example, okay? We're going to go 15, 10, and 5. So here's our time frame, just as an example: 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and 15 to 20, okay? A lot of the times, people would only be practicing from here, and then maybe when they get to 4 years, they go to a local jam here, and then this is their level of familiarity, okay? What they're familiar with, okay? And a lot of the times they struggle with that. Some people actually end up coming back here and staying at practice, only at practice for the whole time, and they come up here occasionally and they just play this game for their whole bloody career. Yeah, and this is, if this offends you, then that's for you, okay? So, let me grab my whiteboard marker. What a lot of people do is after 3 or 4 years, they come up here and then they start to spend a bit more time here, and then they end up dropping back here and they come here, and then they will try coming up here, but they're so unfamiliar with this. When they get to their 10 year, they drop back down and they just float around here like this all the time. They float like this all bloody time. Through their whole career, they're just like that. If you want to get better, you need to be able to come to these events more frequently. So your intensity, right, is so important. Putting yourself in a space where you're at level 4, 5, or 6 more frequently is going to be the biggest impact on how well you perform all the time. Coming up here and being familiar with this as much as you can in the international state, in world championships, in Eastern championships, which is this is the average level 4. If you go up here, guarantee you're going to smoke every single event. You're going to perform so well at every single event below this threshold, right? And that's the difference. So how can we get up there more quicker? So how do we get up here more quicker? There's 3 ways. The first one I just mentioned is intensity, okay? I don't know where I'm going to write this. Intensity, your environment, and lastly, perceived pressure. It's the value that you put on it, and what you perceive in there is going to get to you the most, okay? So if you spend your time on level 5 and 6 more frequently, you're going to feel less pressure, and you're going to perceive that pressure to be more minimal as you spend time in it. So, but a lot of the times, most people have this problem, is that we can't get to these events all the time. Why? Because we can't dig deep into those pockets and in our savings, or maybe our job doesn't pay us enough to be at all these events. We could move to a better country, that's an option, but if we can change the perceived pressure on how we see these events and have control over our minds, there's tactics that I teach, that I implement as well, that help me so much. The only thing that really matters is my skill, and that's all I need to focus on. Because battling and competing and performing is a whole different type of game. It's a different skill on its own, okay? So if you can just focus on your physical skills, and you can hone down on these ones, and you already have tactics to do that, it will be so much easier, okay? But a lot of us don't understand that we actually have control over this perceived pressure in ourselves. But there's a few things that you can go about it. So the first one is meditating, okay? And then there's also understanding our sympathetic and parasympathetic state, so whenever we feel stressed. And it's reframing things that I've mentioned before. Because a lot of the times, as we start to climb up here, we start to doubt ourselves, so then we don't end up trusting ourselves, and then we don't believe in ourselves. So those three things, doubt, trust, and belief, start to decline as we climb up here when we're unfamiliar with this, okay? When we're unfamiliar with this. So what we have to do is we need to learn how to reframe in our mind and know how to think when the pressure starts to come on. So we practice that down here, and as we come up, we keep our mind at a certain clarity. And this is just a video for awareness, but I do teach this, and I am a practitioner of this as well. So this is why I speak about this, and I understand the journey for any kind of competitor who's dealing with pressure. Having a mindset coach is going to be the difference between you feeling comfortable up here versus you trying to figure it out, or you just end up playing this game throughout the whole 20 years of your career. So I hope this kind of puts a bit more clarity and perspective into what the journey looks like when you start to face more pressure as you go on through in your career and you try to go to more higher pinnacle events. So you need to learn how to trust yourself, believe in yourself, and not doubt yourself. And a lot of the times it's just in your mindset. You want to be able to perform here with a freedom of thinking down here where you can do your best. The goal is to be able to dance like no one's watching. And that's what I'm trying to teach people.